Back when I was looking up the candidates for the elections this year, I was interested in Robert F. Kennedy Jr. at first. I absolutely love how he's in favor of renewable energy, possibly the best thing about him. I also like how he believes in giving benefits to the middle class, how the US should not be aligned with countries like Saudi Arabia, and his views on gender dysphoria. But the main reason why I ended up not supporting him was because of his views on Ukraine. I find it strange that he has gone down this road considering that he has called Putin a monster and a thug.
Is that he is homicidal. He kills his enemies or poisons them. And, the reaction I've seen to that, to hit those accusations from him, have not been to deny that, but to kind of laugh it off. I think he's a dangerous man, and that, of course, there's probably corruption in his regime.
Having said that, there is a lot to take into question about the words he put out when endorsing Trump. Now, to clarify about his endorsement, I really don't care about Trump. Robert Kennedy has the right to support whoever he wishes. The main issue I have with him is what he gets wrong on talking about Ukraine, and that alone is what I'm going to focus on right now.
I want to share with you the biggest reason that I stepped out of the presidential race to endorse Donald Trump. It's an issue so big that many people don't even want to look at it. And I'm talking about the slide toward nuclear war. You might remember back in the day when Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld and Paul Wolfowitz and all those other guys were pushing for war in Iraq, war in Syria, war in Libya, war in Iran, and full spectrum U.S. military domination across the globe. These people were known as the neocons, and they have now taken over the Democratic Party.
Really? Are you seriously telling me that they entered the Democratic Party when large numbers of them are run by simps, third-wave feminists, and woke people?
Right now, they're the ones who are pushing for maximum confrontation with Russia. Do you have any idea how dangerous that is? Russia is the world's largest nuclear power.
Actually, the only neocon pushing for war here is Putin himself, considering that he's been too long in office and needs to show off to certain people.
Right now, our country is providing weapons trainings and targeting information for Ukraine to strike deep into Russian territory with both infantry and with missiles.
And do they not have the right to support who they want? Putin has done the same thing in Syria and furthered weapons development for Iran and North Korea.
How would our country react if, say, Russia had bases on the Mexican border and was aiding Mexican armed forces to strike oil refineries and towns and nuclear power plants in Texas?
Are we forgetting that Russia is the one who invaded Ukraine here? Think whatever you want about the politics of the matter, but you do not invade another country because you don't get along with them politically. Imagine if Russia began bombing Alaska, a place which many Russian politicians have called to getting back, and then when the US retaliated, Moscow cried foul. Every country has the right to defend itself. Had Robert Kennedy been elected as president and Russian bombers began raining missiles on Alaska or any other parts of the American homeland, I can promise you he would definitely begin launching his own missiles back at Russia.
If Russia gets desperate, they will use nuclear weapons, and Vladimir Putin has made this clear. That's the game that President Biden and the foreign policy establishment have been playing.
Putin has laid many red lines in the past. He's threatened to use nuclear weapons or drag NATO into the conflict if Ukraine began striking Crimea, if Poland supplied MiG-29s, if Germany sent Taurus missiles, if the Russians lost Kherson or Kharkiv, if Ukraine received HIMARS or Patriot missiles, or F-16s or ATACMS. All of these red lines have been crossed, and what has Putin done?
Nothing! You've done nothing! Nothing!
The way I see it, Putin has the integrity of an organized crime lord, which he basically is.
They're gambling the future of our planet, and for what? For nothing.
Do you honestly believe that? Putin has invaded Georgia, commenced cyber attacks in Estonia, blew up an ammo depot in the Czech Republic, and has been warring with Ukraine for the last 10 years. If he is allowed, do you really think he will stop? There's a reason why countries in Eastern Europe are rearming. They're getting ready for the worst. And remember how I mentioned that certain politicians want Alaska back? That will happen too. Also, what message would that send to other dictatorships around the world? That China can invade Taiwan, that North Korea can invade South Korea, that Iran can continue to strike Israel. The world will be more dangerous if people like Putin get their way.
The endless wars of the neocons are bankrupting our nation. They're making us less safe at home and less safe abroad. It used to be that the Republicans were even more belligerent than the Democrats. Some of them still are.
Are you sure about that?
If you look at the 20th century, you'll see that most wars the US was involved in fell under Democratic administrations. Lyndon Johnson, who started as the vice president to RFK's uncle John F. Kennedy, dragged the US into one of its worst wars, and under false pretenses. He was a Democrat. Both these parties are one the same. It's just people who misuse their power.
But not Donald Trump. I've had extensive conversations with him and his team. He understands the danger. He sees through the neocons now. He's going to de-escalate with Russia, and he's going to cancel the neocons' plans for wars with China and Iran too.
Are you seriously claiming that Trump is anti-war? During his administration, he bombed Syria multiple times.
On Tuesday, Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad launched a horrible chemical weapons attack on innocent civilians. Using a deadly nerve agent, Assad choked out the lives of helpless men, women, and children. It was a slow and brutal death for so many. Even beautiful babies were cruelly murdered in this very barbaric attack. No child of God should ever suffer such horror. Tonight I ordered a targeted military strike on the airfield in Syria from where the chemical attack was launched. It is in this vital national security interest of the United States to prevent and deter the spread and use of deadly chemical weapons. There can be no dispute that Syria used banned chemical weapons, violated its obligations under the Chemical Weapons Convention, and ignored the urging of the UN Security Council. Years of previous attempts at changing Assad's behavior have all failed, and failed very dramatically. As a result, the refugee crisis continues to deepen, and the region continues to destabilize, threatening the United States and its allies. Tonight I call on all civilized nations to join us in seeking to end the slaughter and bloodshed in Syria, and also to end terrorism of all kinds and all types. We ask for God's wisdom as we face the challenge of our very troubled world. We pray for the lives of the wounded and for the souls of those who have passed. And we hope that as long as America stands for justice, then peace and harmony will, in the end, prevail. Good night, and God bless America and the entire world. Thank you.
He bombed the Iranian military. He kept US troops in Somalia, even though he boasted about withdrawing them. And let's not forget that he inflamed the conflicts the US was already involved in. He increased the amount of airstrikes in Afghanistan, leading to a 330% increase in civilian casualties. He increased support for the Saudis in their invasion of Yemen, something that Robert Kennedy himself vehemently opposes. During the first 2 years of Trump's presidency alone, there were 2,243 drone strikes all over the world. By comparison, all of the 8 years of the Obama administration saw 1,878 airstrikes. You're going to fall flat on your face if you try to claim that Trump is a pacifist.
I take him at his word, and I'm also going to keep him to his word. I need your support to help me do that. I need you to vote Donald Trump into the White House. Let's get him elected, and let's put an end to the war machine. Thank you.
Oh, RFK, please don't be so naive. I find it hard to just call him Robert, as my name is also Robert, but I'm glad there is an acronym. In general, I see the main reason why RFK supports Trump is because of some of the backwards policies the Democratic Party has adopted and turned against him. But that does not mean you should go all the way to the other side of the spectrum. You can disagree with both Republicans and Democrats. It's called thinking for yourself. Perhaps if, as an independent candidate, RFK had relied less on the Democratic Party, he would have done a much better job in his campaign. I honestly think he would be a better president than Trump. I guess we won't know until the election in 2028, if he decides to be a candidate again.